All right, so P-1, we're going to review things that you can do graphically. Let me grab my calculator. I want to know everything that you know about the coordinate plane. So this is all stuff that should be familiar to you. What quadrant is this?
1.
And with a Roman numeral 1. Where's 2? Upper left or lower right? Upper left. Good. By now you figured that out. So then this is quad 3 and quad 4. You must use Roman numerals. Then on top of that, you should know the signs of your quadrants. What's the sign of this quadrant? Do you remember how to, well, it's just one sign, positive. Remember how to figure it out? Look at your borders. Isn't it bordered by positive and positive? What's a positive times a positive? Positive. This is bordered by negatives and positives. What's a negative times a positive? Negative. So what's this one? Negative times a negative is a positive. The positive quadrants will always be diagonal to each other. And then that means that this must be negative. And the negative quadrants are diagonal to each other. Then we have the origin right here, 0, 0. And then we have our axes. The horizontal axis here is which one? X-axis. And that means this is the y-axis. All right, then you're going to do a little bit with transformations. And so this should be pretty simple. Shift the triangle 5 units to the right and 1 unit down. So 5 units to the right, I would go that far. And if I wanted to go down 1 unit, go down 1 and plot a point. So do that for each of those points. You could do it algebraically if you wanted to. But why when you have a graph? And then use your straight edge to connect your points. And so now with the translation, you should have the same exact shape, but it's just slid. So it should not dilate. You okay with that, right? What if I asked for a reflection? What if we had to reflect this? How would you reflect it? Very good question. Depends on which axis, right? So what if I said y-axis? What would you do? Well, look at this point here. How far is this point from the y-axis? 2. So you would want this point, its reflected point, to be 2 on the other side of that y-axis. So that point would go there. This point is 2, 4, 5 away, so that it would be 5 away over here. And so you would reflect each point manually that way. Could you do it algebraically? Absolutely. I need you to take notes with us. Can you put that away, please? All right, so then look at the next page. So example 3, let's just quickly put this in our calculator. So it's your stats again, right? So let's go into, and I'm going to move out just a little bit so we can see what I'm doing on my calculator. I want you to put T in for X and A in for Y. So go to stats. So go to stat, go to edit. And then I already have in mind, now instead of putting 1988, I just put 88. You don't need to put in the whole year. So I put in 88, 89, 90, and so forth, all the way down until I got to 97. And I did the same thing for A. So those of you who are having issues, you might still be having issues if you can't get your plots to come up. We should have a big graph on this, according to the transport. That's it. And it says per 1 to 1. Oh, that's the wrong one. Did I do that one? Oh, good gracious. Yeah, that's the wrong one. That's the one. Are you kidding? Is that a word wrong? That's it. That's the place. No, somehow that should have been enough. Oh, my bad. I don't know how that, yeah, I don't know how that got in there. Oh, my bad. All right, thanks. Tell her that's okay. That's my fault. Okay, you gotta adjust your window. We're not there yet. All right, so if you got this in, then we have to go and adjust your window. Now this information goes, well, look over here at these graphs. So we want to go from, this is our lowest is 1988. So we want to go from 1988. So we just want to go from 88 on our X to 97 for our X. So go to your window. And I did 86 just because, but you can do, 87. I just wanted to get a little bit lower. And then I went up to 99. Again, you could do 97, 98, 99. I just wanted to capture my low and my high point on my X. And then here, notice that they're starting at 50. They're doing a broken line graph, which we won't go into why that's not good. But anyway, so 50 to 400. So I went, my Y minimum is 50. My Y max is 400. And then isn't there a scale going by 50s? So then I put the scale at 50. Then go to your scat plots. So go second, scat plot. Make sure it's on. And then go inside. Make sure mine says L1, L2. So like some of you might have L2, L3, depending upon what your columns were. And then make sure that this dotted line is highlighted. If it's not, cursor over there and highlight it. And then hit graph, and hopefully your graph should look like theirs. Give or take a smidge. Yes. Okay, I'll have to look at it in a minute. So when I'm done, we'll look at it and see why. Just keep all that information in there. All right, so if you're not getting this, we have to figure out why. Some of you have something goofy in your calculator that I can't see yet. So, all right, so then let's look for this one here, the actual line graph. So go back to scat plot. So do second scat plot, hit enter to get into that, and then cursor over to the line graph. And hit enter. And then go back to graph. And now you have that. Don't try to get the bar graph, because the bar graph on the scat plot is actually a histogram. So don't worry about getting this yet. Question? And your window looks just like mine.
Yep.
Weird. Try graph again. And it's still doing that? I don't know why. I don't know why, because if everything on yours is the same as mine, it should be working. Try, do this at home. Write these directions down. Do second, hang on, let me get out of here. Second plus, so do second plus, and then hit 7. Now this is going to reset stuff, so you got to be careful. And then hit Alt 2. And just see if that fixes it. It might have taken all your information out, but that will default it back to what all the default should be. and then see if that works with your stat plots again, because it might have corrected something that's in there funky. All right, but let's go on. There's a lot of disruptions today. All right, so let's look at the distance formula. So if you're using the distance formula, you've got 2 points. Make sure that you label them as x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And then plug it in that formula. You can use your calculator. So in my calculator, I'm going to plug in using exactly what you see here. And then my y sub, or my x sub 2 is -2. My x sub, whoops, I just said that backwards, and it really doesn't matter. So x sub 2 is 3. My x sub 1 is -2. My y sub 2 is 4, and my y sub 1 is 1. So on your calculator, you have to get to your square root. Your square root is above your x squared key. So hit second x squared to get to your square root, and then parentheses. 3 minus a -2, end parentheses, hit x squared, and then plus parentheses 4 minus 1, end parentheses, and then x squared. So your calculator should look like that. And then you can hit enter. So if you plug it in exactly as it looks, then we're going to get 5.83. Okay? Now, if I were not allowing you to have a decimal answer, then you would have to do that by hand. So pay attention to what the answers look like, or what they're saying that your answers can be. If you have to simplify the radical versus give a decimal equivalency, you might have to give both. Question? It did or did not? It did. Okay, good. So try that on your calculator. Yes? Fractions. Well, it just depends. It really just depends. It depends on if you're using your calculator or not. It just depends. All right, so for this one, is the following a right triangle, and we want to use Pythagoras' theorem. So in order to use Pythagoras' theorem, you've got to find the length of this, and we can't count it, the length of this, and then the length of this. You have to find the length of all 3 sides, and then plug it into which one's A, B, and C. I guess more pointedly, which side would be C? This, the longest side, right? So whichever one is the longest, not appears, but you're going to actually find the distance. So write yourself notes here. We're not going to do it on this one, but number 1, you're going to find the distance of each side of the triangle. And that would be using the distance formula, right? And then step 2, plug the 3 lengths into a squared plus b squared equals c squared, with the longest length going in for c squared. And then if the left side of the equation exactly equals the right side, then yes, it's a right triangle. If it doesn't, not. Can I take that away? Okay. Then midpoint formula. Super easy formula. You're just finding the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So to find the midpoint of these 2 points, if this is x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So take your x's, 5 and 9, and your y's, -3 and 3. So I end up with 5 plus 9 is 14 over 2, and -3 plus 3 is 0 over 2, and then simplify. Don't I get 7, 0? Okay. Then I put an example in here. This is directly out of your textbook, and it just talks about how I would find a missing some missing information. And so they've got annual sales of 1.3 billion in 1996 and 1.36 billion in 1998. The year in between 96 and 98 is 97, isn't it? So if I wanted to find the sales in 1997, wouldn't it make sense to use the midpoint? And so all they've done is they have assigned in here, and they've gone through the work, that this is, they're saying that this is the X sub 1, and so then this would be, where's the other one? Y, X sub 2 over here. And then this is Y sub 1, and then this is Y sub 2. So they use those as their ordered pairs, so they put them right down here, and then use the midpoint formula. So there's a use for it. And then here's the equation of a circle. So you should already know and be familiar with this equation from 3-4, right? Your center is HK. Whatever the sign is inside, your center is the opposite sign. So like for instance, my center here is -1. X minus a -1, your actual equation is going to read X plus 1. Do you remember that? Okay. But, so I have my center, so this is my H, and this is my K, and then they've given me a point. They have not given me my radius. So this is my X and my Y. I have to use those to find R. So plug it. So I'm going to plug in 3 for X minus -1 for H squared. For Y I'm using 4 minus, for K I'm using 2 squared, and then that should equal R squared. Now you really don't need to find R, do you? Because can't you just substitute 20 in for R squared? So then to write your equation, we're going to write it as X, and instead of minus a -1, we're going to do plus 1 squared plus Y minus 2 squared equals 20. Done. I think that was my last one. Oh, with all the interruptions. Yep. All right, so your assignment is page 9. I've given you 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 whole problems. Do you think you can complete yesterday's homework and this in one night? They're really not that difficult. So again, if you have issues,